Hello for the third time for Crossing Borders at Always Next Year podcast. I am your host, Shane Mead. I am joined by our Canadian friend, Connor Donald, and it is a little silly to have been saying this now for the third time, as the studio technical difficulties are showering on us tonight because the Lord does not want me to watch the Philadelphia 76ers game. Connor, for the third time, dude, how are you?
I think I'm doing a lot better than you. I think it's just that holiday weekend spirit there.
I don't know what the hell it is, but all's like I am confident of it now. I am staring at a little red dot that is reading right back to me that we are at 34, 35, 36 seconds. We are still recording.
And I see Shane is recording the call this time around, so let's hope it
Thank
stays this way.
God.
Let's hope
Thank
it stays that way.
God.
This could be the last time you're the host if this stops again.
I'm honestly, I might be demoted. This may be it. The technical difficulties reign when I am in charge, which is a damn mess. But this is Crossing Borders, and I'll take a breath for a second, just reset it. We take Philadelphia sports hottest debated topics for each of the four teams in Philadelphia sports, and we give our takes to those takes. We started and we talked 17 minutes on Carson Wentz's contract situation, so we're going to repeat ourselves for the next 17 minutes. Russell Wilson signs his contract extension out in Seattle, and Philadelphia Eagles Twitter has obviously began the debate. When is the appropriate time to extend our franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz? Connor, you can start this one off while it is still recording at a minute and 45 seconds.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm on the sign him now side of this debate. I think you have to take advantage of the injury history and the fact that Nick Foles has led us in the past two playoffs. No disrespect to Nick Foles, no disrespect to Carson Wentz, but this is the opportunity to take advantage of that recent history that we have, and lock him down at, like as I said earlier. I think 5 years, 155 million will get it done. That's 31 million per year. So you're about 2 million less than Rodgers and 4 million less than Wilson. Um, and then, of course, you leave the guarantees and all that injury stuff, injury targets or whatever, to Howie, because we all know he's a genius when it comes to that stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, Russell Wilson has not missed a playoff game, a game in since 2012 when he entered the league. Carson Wentz has now missed 8 games in 3 pro years. Plus, he's also missed 2 entire playoffs, one of which was a Super Bowl run. So I think you have to sign him now, as we said in the last time we talked to ourselves for a little bit there. I think Carson Wentz has that mentality that he may want to play it out and see if he can't get more money out of it, but there's a lot of risk. And the right agent is going to sit there and he's going to tell him, Carson, get your money now. What if? Because like we all know, the microfracture isn't 100% healed yet. Who's to say something doesn't come up in the next couple months, right before the season starts, right when the season starts? You just don't know. So I bet if I was his agent, I'd be saying, Carson, take the money. Take the money now and run. Don't bet on yourself. That's my thoughts. And I mean, obviously, when you take this into account, he's going to end up hitting that around 30 years old when this extension would be up, I think. So you could bet on yourself again if you really want. But I don't know if this is the time to bet on yourself.
Yeah, I agree. And as we spoke when we were speaking to ourselves, I very much so am on that side as well. I think that obviously it behooves the Philadelphia Eagles as a franchise to sit here and pay him now. Obviously with the, quote unquote down year last year, he wasn't healthy last year. I don't think for a single snap. You can get him at a little bit lesser of a value and clip. And I think that, again, it's going to be that much more difficult for Howie to do what Howie does when you are locked into a franchise quarterback's non-rookie deal, that first major deal that they get. Suddenly you're going from $6, $7, $8 million a year, whatever the number ends up being on those rookie contract deals. to, just like you said, 25, 30, 31, 32. You don't know, but that's a lot different to work around. One thing that we didn't necessarily talk about, when we were talking amongst ourselves, we are an old football team, and there is going to be a lot of pieces each year that is going to need to be filled. That is, again, going to make Howie's job significantly more difficult. So if you can get it done now and save yourself $3, $4, $5, $6 million, a year, you got to do it. You mentioned it. It is huge. That's the difference of getting a linebacker out there, and we know how thin we are. Having the ability to rework and restructure contracts. It's just. I mean, I think it was you that mentioned it in the group text or in one of our texts. That the cap does go up a significant amount each year. But you don't want to bet on that being the only influx of cash you get. You want to be able to sit there and know, hey, we were able to lock down the cornerstone athlete of the city of Philadelphia and Carson Wentz at a reasonable rate, and at a rate that is still going to make him happy, because ultimately you don't want to ever put yourself in a position where a player is going to hold out. Not that quarterbacks are typically that player. You pay them what you need to pay them to be here. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this argument will become completely just unimportant, because Howie will do what Howie needs to do to keep Carson here. But I do think that it behooves the Philadelphia Eagles to get that deal done now, as opposed to risking Carson becoming the Carson that I personally believe he will be this year, very much so regaining that MVP-like form from 2 years ago. That's going to be really, really difficult then going into that next offseason and having to sit there and evaluate cost.
Like we said previously, I think he's got some of the best weapons he's ever had in his brief time as a quarterback for the Eagles. And you saw what he did a couple years ago: 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and his season was cut short by the torn ACL. So now you throw Deshaun Jackson, you have Jordan Howard coming out of the backfield, who is arguably probably the best running back we've had in his time with us. I think you're going to see that field space out so much more. You got to have a guy chasing Jackson down the field. You got to have 2 guys ready to take Zach Ertz down. You have 2 guys got to be ready on Alshon Jeffrey. You're suddenly spacing the field out immensely, and it'll be more field than Wentz has ever gotten to play with before. So, I think that'll be huge as well. Get him locked down and let him go out and throw 40 touchdowns and 7 picks, or 45 touchdowns and 7 picks.
Yeah, I agree. When you look at, and you could take it back 2 years ago to the weapons that he did have, and you can go one by one and you can see the improvement upon what it is that he has. You have a developed and known chemistry now throughout an entire 16-week season, plus a hopeful postseason run with Alshon Jeffrey. We had Torrey Smith that year, who couldn't catch for shit. Well, now you have Djax, one of the best, our top 3 deep threats in the history of the game. Sure, he's getting up there in age, but you think that doesn't make a huge difference and a huge bonus over what Torrey Smith was 2 years ago? A couple of years ago, we traded midseason, and you acquire, Jay Ajayi, and a guy who you didn't really quite know what you had. There was a little bit of growing pain there. You're coming into a season with Jordan Howard. This is a different football team and a different offense. I said it last year, on any given night, stop one person, stop 2, stop 3. There's still a 4th, 5th, and 6th out there that can hurt you. It's insane. This year is even crazier. This team, this offense, like I said, so long as Wentz stays healthy, he is going to regain that form. And damn it, he is going to cost a hell of a lot more next offseason than what he would right now if you extended him.
Yeah, like I said previously, I don't think that Howie Roseman wants to be that guy who ends up having to pay the first $40 million player in this league. If we don't extend him and he has that MVP year, well, damn, Roseman deserves to have to pay that first $40 million player in the NFL if he comes out and he does what we think he's going to do. So it all comes back on Howie too. He has to hope that agent's saying, Wentz, Carson, take the money, and let's go. Let's go. I mean, you could become the first $40 million quarterback or player in the NFL, or you could go out and tear your ACL again, or your back fracture could act up again, and suddenly you're looking at being a 25 million or less quarterback next offseason.
How much would it derail for you? So if the Philadelphia Eagles, for argument's sake, do not extend him, and there's nothing to say that he can't be extended, going into that preseason and even throughout, like shit can happen. But just say for argument's sake that extension does not go into place, and we're in week 6, week 7, week 8. How nervous are you getting in terms of a contract if he is playing at that elite level that we believe that he is going to be? Are you sitting there fearing what $40 million, on the cap is versus what that 27, 28, 29, and as you said, 30, 31 is, or are you just enjoying the ride?
I think I'll enjoy the ride for the time being, because I mean, like, it was me who was talking in that group chat, and I said it's the salary cap's gone up on average $10 million per year over the last, I think I saw the figure, it was 3 or 4 years. So your $40 million has come from 4 years. Imagine what 4 more years is, and it's growth within the NFL as well. So that cap that went up 10 million last year could be going up 12, could be going up 14. We don't know. So for the time being, I'll enjoy the ride, because Howie knows what he's doing. Carson knows what he wants and what he's going to do. So at the end of the day, I think you got a genuine athlete with Carson Wentz who's not going to hold something over Howie's head. And you got one of the best execs in the NFL in Howie Roseman. Something will get worked out. The cap will go up. And my God, he might just have to cut everyone's salary cap and make it all guaranteed money just for Carson Wentz. But he'll do something. So I'll enjoy the ride. If we're going for a second Super Bowl in 2 years, I'm enjoying that ride. I ain't even thinking about contracts.
That is 100% the correct answer, and I wish that the rest of Philadelphia Eagles Twitter would also realize that. I've seen some of the most absurd things on there stating that the what-if scenarios of, oh, hey, we did not get this deal done, and now I'm going to be distracted throughout the year because I don't want my quarterback to excel to some unreasonable level that we're going to have to pay him. The argument in those tweets was $35, $36, $37 or $1 million a year. But, same principle stands. If you're betting against your quarterback because you want to save a few bucks, during season, I think you're a jackass. But I do think that if you are a real fan, you are hoping to God that Howie finds a way to get that done this offseason to save the bucks now, versus hoping to God he fails during a regular season. That is insanity.
He didn't open up, what are we, $27 million in cap to use it this year on a bunch of random people. He knows what he's freeing up that money for. $27 million, and then the cap goes up $10 million next offseason. Suddenly you got $37 million if you don't have to use it during the year. What's that all for? You never know. He's thinking long term. He's thinking, what if I don't get it done this off season? He's got plan in mind. People just have to. It's how he does it.
Oh yeah, this dude, 3D chess. I swear. Looking at Big Bang Theory, Sheldon Cooper, Crazy Minds, Insanity. That is Howie Roseman, and Elle says it best all the time when it is quiet and you're thinking nothing and you're almost forgetting about Howie. Splash. Here comes something big. And we very well may be looking at that with a Carson extension this offseason.
Agreed.
So moving on to, a little bit less fun of circumstances here and arguments. The Philadelphia Phillies, while still, first place in the NL East, third best record in all of baseball, they're in Colorado right now. The concerns of Aaron Nola. So Aaron Nola, speaking of contracts and favorable contracts for a franchise, signs an $11 million a year contract for 4 more years. Signed that in the in spring training to enter the season. Signs that after a Cy Young, a top 3 Cy Young finish for the NL. Everyone assumed that it was Nola and then 4 other guys. Well, right now it's Jake and 4 other guys. And really, it's Jake and 3.5 other guys because Pivetta just got sent the hell down. And Nola is all over Philadelphia Phillies Twitter right now. And what if he isn't what we thought? What if last year was a flash in the pan? Me and LJ talked about that on an episode of In Cap We Trust this week, which is also being published tonight. So if you're listening to this, you'll also hear that argument over there. What is your take right now on Aaron Nola? Are you hitting the panic button, or are you saying relax, it's freaking April?
So I'm kind of on the fence, but at the same time, I am that one of those people who's kind of hitting the panic button, because I mean, you have to look at it like, okay, well, first of all, let's look at it's early in the season. There's a lot of aces struggling out there right now. I think I saw there's like Corey Kluber, Chris Sale. There's a few guys who have ERAs over 6 right now, and they're aces, and their teams aren't panicking. So only in Philadelphia do we get this debate and this panic. But also, the weather has sucked. I've been watching so many games where I'm afraid the camera's going to blow over. The camera movement is making me sick from the wind in Citizens Bank Park. So, I mean, we watched Noah Syndergaard. Well, I watched Noah Syndergaard that night, and he couldn't even throw the ball. The wind was just taking the ball. It was like throwing a beach ball. So, I mean, it's early. The weather's very, very shitty, and there's a lot of struggling aces. So maybe that speaks to just the early season. But at the same time, I look at the stats. 33 starts last year, and he didn't give up more than 4 runs, and he's already done it 3 times this year. That worries me. That worries me a bit. And then you look at, this was the ugliest stat I saw. When I saw this stat, I was like, holy shit, like this is our ace. He ranks 78th of 78 pitchers to have worked 15 innings in ERA. He has the worst ERA of any pitcher who's pitched more than 15 innings. That's bad. That's it. You signed him to ace money, and he's last. I get if you're like, 30, 40, no need to panic. He'll probably pull it together. This man is 78th. 78 pitchers. Like, that's crazy. And I get Kapler defending it, saying give him the benefit of the doubt comment, because he's there's people saying he did something with his release. So he's got to figure out his command again, and he's got to get that breaking ball back. And there's something that a lot of people are saying, something in his mechanics that's not right, that's wrong, or that something's up there. So, I mean, our pitching staff in a whole, I think, is having issues. So it kind of I think it's making Aaron Nola look worse, because he was supposed to be the ace. So we're all overreacting because, well, Pivetta just packed his bags and is heading out. Eichhoff came in relief, and everyone's like, oh my God, he's the next Nick Pivetta. I'm not sold on that yet. Eflin, is he going to actually stick around and be as good as he's been? I'm still not 100% sold on that. I'm thinking to the Pivetta situation that just happened with Eflin, maybe that could happen. Arrieta pitched a gem of a game. Is it going to continue? Yeah, tough with Arrieta. He's touch and go. Like we said last week, he's not very flashy. So all it takes is a team that can get the bat going that night, and he gets blown up for 7 or 8 runs. So I'm hitting the panic button, but my hand's on it, and it's going to take someone to force it down to really panic. But I'm not full-on panic mode yet. But the stats have to worry you. You can't say you're not panicked at all.
There's definitely concern, and for me, there's a concern, from a multitude of different ways, in areas, and again, me and El talked about this a little bit on In Cap We Trust. There's the very real possibility that not only Aaron Nola, but the rest of this staff, all very young members with the exception of Jake Arrieta, all grew up throwing to Jorge Alfaro. Not saying Jorge Alfaro was a better catcher than JT Realmuto. He certainly was not, is not, and will not be a better catcher than what JT Realmuto is. But there's a feeling out process there. These guys are still learning how to trust one another, how to communicate, learning what one another wants. Aaron Nola may, just as the rest of this staff may, just be going through a growing pain right now. As you mentioned, the weather's been tough. It's April. It's always tough, and it's not necessarily an excuse, but it's certainly something to consider. It's really difficult to pitch in April. It's hard to feel the laces. It's hard to feel the snap on your curve. It's hard to totally trust that your ball is going to be heavy enough with the downward movement on some of those moving fastballs. It's a difficult month to pitch in. That being said, just like you mentioned, look at every single. I mean, he is giving up more hits than he ever has. He's giving up uh, a higher overall barrel percentage and contact rate than he ever has. He's giving up more home runs than he ever has. He's walking more batters than he ever has. He's not going deep into games. It's like every single page you turn in the analytics, statalytic, all the bullshit lytic. He's failing at everything right now. And if you're not concerned, you're fucking crazy. That being said, I am basically right on that same page as you. You know, I do fully trust Aaron Nola to eventually turn it around. I don't think it's going to be next start. I don't think it's going to be in the start after that. I do think that there is going to be a period of time that he will struggle. And then there's going to be that gradual improvement in the feel out process of what it's like to throw to JT Realmuto. There's going to be a gradual improvement when the weather begins to improve. There's going to be a gradual improvement when the rest of the rotation begins to kind of click, because there isn't necessarily the pressure upon you to be that lone ace. If Jake Arrieta keeps throwing the way that he's throwing, that's going to help Aaron Nola, because the pressure isn't necessarily going to be there. If we see more of what Zach Eflin's first 2 or 3 starts were like versus what his last start was like, that relieves some pressure on Aaron Nola, because he's not going to have to do that. You know, Vince Velasquez, for what it's worth, you know, while I don't trust him for shit, and he gives up high contact and high exit velocity and all the stats that you never really want to see, you know, if you're looking at the overall, you know, performance of a pitcher, he's been okay. He's, you know, he's not, look, he's never going to be the, you know, the sexiest of options out there, but for a 5th starter right now, he's doing fine. Pivetta is gone. That headache is out of your way right now, and I'm a Pivetta supporter. I, by the way, fucking love Jared Eichhoff, so I'm so thrilled that he is back in the rotation, even if it's just for a couple starts. Don't even care. It's great to have him back. He will provide some stability. So I do believe that there will be a gradual increase in the confidence and comfort of Aaron Nola as the season progresses, but it's not just going to be this light switch. You know, someone's not just going to come in and say, guess what? You're getting last year's Aaron Nola this week for the rest of the season. Congratulations, and NL East, buckle up. You're going up against a good guy now. That's not going to happen. It may not be until the All-Star break. You know, so there is very legitimate concern there. But as you mentioned, it extends beyond what Aaron Nola is. It extends to the rest of the rotation. It extends to the philosophy of the pitchers in the bullpen right now. It extends to the health of the bullpen pitchers right now. There is a lot of change in the pitching staff. They're throwing to JT Realmuto. They have a new, even though Chris Young was there last year, he wasn't like the voice. You know, the organization as a whole has gone, you know, and changed the philosophy of their pitching approach. It may not be conducive for everyone. We saw the offense last year be boring as hell sometimes. We saw Kingery hit like 212 for half the year because they tried to make a very aggressive Gene Segura-like hitter a patient hitter. And guess what? It fucking didn't work. So maybe some of this shit isn't going to work for Aaron Nola or Nick Pivetta.
Agreed. Like I've seen a lot of people talking about bringing Keuchel in, but I mean, what the money he's demanding, what he wants, like he wants $17 million for the rest of the year. It's not worth that investment. We have the right people. It's just kind of getting them all, like you said, in a bit of a rhythm. In speaking about Realmuto, I think he's done a great job. I've seen times where the pitchers are getting out of control. He goes up to the mound. He has a quick discussion. They settle right down. He gets their command back in. He gets showing them where exactly he wants them throwing the ball. And that's something Alfaro never did. And that's like, I think as the season goes, you won't need to go out halfway through a disaster inning and say, all right, calm down. This is what we're going to do. It'll just click. It'll just happen. And I think that's something that's really good with Realmuto is he's good at calming them down. It's just kind of making sure that they're calm from the opening pitch to the final pitch.
I agree. And I've seen, so Johnny Heller of 3 Up and 3 Down Pod, he has been on In Cap We Trust. He was a guest there. He's pretty active on Phillies Twitter, and he had mentioned before the season even started, and he's mentioned it a few times over the last couple weeks. And I'm just curious, tangentially looking at the Aaron Nola struggle here and the rotational struggles, as we've seen throughout. Now, obviously, we think Eichhoff is going to come in and add some stability there with Pivetta out of the rotation. But Johnny has mentioned before, would you go and use and exercise that opener's role with an analytically driven coach such as Gabe Kapler, matchups guys such as Gabe Kapler. What if you exercised that type of role as opposed to having a fourth and fifth or a fifth starter in your rotation? Is that something you would ever exercise right now? Or is that something that you're not still totally on board with, and you'll leave that to the Tampa Bay Rays?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that. I hate it for the game to have that guy go. I get it. I get the whole analytical aspect of the game, but I think that's kind of something, that part of the game that's kind of losing fan support when you talk about the game versus, let's say, the NHL or the NBA or the NFL. That deep analytic thought process it's what you're going to lose fans on. They see this guy come out, he throws an inning, and then he's gone, and then the actual starter comes out and throws five. Like, I don't like it. I don't personally like it, and I don't think Kapler will go that way. I think he trusts his starters to be starters, and he's not going to need an opener per se. And I mean, would I trust that bullpen to have a guy who's going to be an opener? I don't know about that either. If you imagine, what would your reaction be if you saw Morgan coming out to throw the first pitch of the game? And
Damn it, I'd be confident. I wouldn't give a shit right now. I am full on the Adam Morgan train.
I guess that's true. In that situation, that's a bad example. But I mean, Hector Neris comes out and he's going to throw you the first inning. Like, that's a pretty scary thought.
I agree. Like, I tend to agree with that entire philosophy. And as much as I do approve of analytics, and I approve, of being well informed in your decision process, I do believe that at the end of the day, this is still a game of human emotion and reaction. And these guys have been hardwired for so long to fill into these particular roles. This opener's role isn't something that is exactly commonplace for many of the guys that are in the major leagues right now. It works for the Rays because they're young. It works for the Rays because they had pieces that were parts of that kind of a puzzle before. I don't know that works in Philadelphia. Can you imagine Dave Robertson going out there to start a game and throw an inning or two?
Agreed. I don't like it. Work. I hated it when, especially, so I'm big on fantasy baseball, as you know. I've asked your advice on trades a bit. I mean, you hate it when you have that opener. Because I had some Rays last year, some Rays pitchers. You have that opener, and then your starter goes out, and you're like, oh, well, shit, I'm not going to get a quality start. Probably not going to get the win. I don't like it. It just doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense to me, but at the same time, it just doesn't. I mean, you're just losing the interest of people watching. They just want to see that starter go out and pitch his 5 or 6 innings. That's just my take on that.
Yeah, I do think, of all of the different types of things in baseball, be it the shift or the lefty specialists, there are so many different changes to this game right now. That's one that still has people a little cockeyed. So I do agree. Whether it be Nola, whether it be Eflin if he has another poor start, Pivetta if he comes back up and still doesn't look right, or Vinny Velasquez becomes Vinny Velasquez again. I'm not quite ready to push the panic button down, but my hand, just as you mentioned, hovering right over that big red button that says, holy shit, sign someone. But we'll see.
Like, I mean, the shift makes sense. I mean, when they show the aerial shot and everyone's crowded right by, like, Rhys Hoskins at first base, everyone's just all lined there. The crazy part is 9.9 times out of 10, they hit into that. It's crazy. It's crazy to talk about. And like when they had Ryan Howard when he first was on ESPN and he was talking about the shift and hitting into the shift, like
he was good.
There's ways to get out of the shift, but it's not easy for everybody. So you crowd that. You have 4 guys on the right side or left side of, how would we be standing? Left side of second base. You know what? It works. So it works. It makes sense. The opener. It doesn't make sense. I don't find it works. I don't find it as effective. That same opener could give up 3 runs in the first inning, just as that starter could give up 3 runs. And perhaps I'd say the opener is more apt to give up 3 or 4 runs.
I think the Rays would kindly disagree. First
Well,
place
the Rays can
Rays.
disagree.
But, and while it isn't our argument, I do feel the need to put this out here. The shift is garbage. I freaking hate it. And I hate it for one reason. I love pitchers and I love defense. I love all those things. And in theory, the shift for a guy like me should be like a wet freaking dream. Seeing the thought process, of all of the research, and preparedness coming to play and work should just be so magical. But then I sit there and it pisses me off to no end that these guys can look at a half a baseball field. I'll tell you, I played baseball for my entire life. Every single practice and every single pregame that we had, pregame batting practice, we had the same fucking handful of drills. Pull the ball, sack fly, get the ball through the gap, between first and second base, hit the ball the other way. You always have those drills. They're professional hitters. I know it's not the sexy thing, and we didn't pay back in 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with Ryan Howard. We didn't pay him to slap a ball the other way and get a double. But damn it, sometimes you need to. We saw it with Chase Utley in the World Series. Now, granted, Chase, this is not the best of examples, but it's one of my fondest. He tries to bunt in the first game in Tampa in the World Series. Doesn't work out. Next pitch, he hits a home run 3 rows back at Tropicana. So obviously at times works. That's the sexy option. But look, sometimes get the hell on base. If they're going to shift you like that, it's such a I can't stand it. Someone's got to figure out a way.
I'm on board with that. Like, there's so much that you learn for how to pull the ball. Like, how is it going to take? How is that 0.1 time out of 10 the only time you're going to be able to pull the ball? You're getting paid like 10, 12, 15 million dollars. Like, I shift on Bryce Harper with the amount of money we're paying him. Man, find a gap, hit the ball, focus, and hit that ball there. Like, I mean, it's crazy. If you have a whole field open to you, you just step back in the box a bit, do whatever you got to do, but pull the ball. Do something. Make the shift not worthwhile to use on you. I agree.
Yep. Again, I know it was a tangential topic here. We're moving off of the Aaron Nola thing that we began, but if we're going to talk shift in baseball, I'm going to be pissed off about it. But shifting on to another topic of straight pissed off area here for Philadelphia sports fans, the Flyers go ahead and apparently just skip the whole process of interviewing handfuls of coaches, and they went out and they got Alain Vigneault. Had his introductory press conference today. Now, we'll talk a little bit here on this show. We also have Who the Puck is Ryan Dingle coming up tomorrow with me, Rob, and baby Steve. And Steve is actually in the works of creating his own show, not like ours, but more conversational, a whiskey hour, whiskey schmitty hour, something like that, where he'll also touch on this topic. So if we don't go too deep on this one, that's why. Check back in with the Always Next Year podcast tomorrow for posts, as we'll have several other things. But Alain Vigneault comes out and he has his introductory press conference today. Short, but still 4 or 5 minutes of content there, several memorable quotes that come out of it. What are some of the things that you noticed from it? Because Flyers Twitter, again, one foot on the Ben Franklin, the other one hanging off the edge. They very well may jump.
Well, personally, maybe I'll be one of the few to say this, but I love the pickup. I love the signing of Alain Vigneault. I think he's a great coach. He brings a better resume than most coaches who have come through those doors in the last 20 years for us. I mean, you look at this guy, he's coached 1,200 games with a win percentage of .588. He's been to 7 division championships. I don't think I've seen that many division championships for almost all of our Philly teams combined. So he's been to 7 division championships in his 11 playoff appearances. He's gotten past the first round in 8 of those 11 appearances. He's been to the Stanley Cup 2 times. 8 of his last 11 years were 100-point seasons. A Jack Adams winner. The resume is insane. The fact that people are like, oh, I wish we got Joel Quenneville going on. Joel Quenneville did not want Philadelphia. If he wanted Philadelphia, the signing to Florida would not have happened that quick. Sorry to burst everybody's heart, but he didn't want Philadelphia. Sorry. But back to that at hand, I thought, you know what? People are going to say, oh, he just said what the fans wanted to hear in his presser. Absolutely. Would you expect anything different from when Bryce Harper did his presser? You think he didn't think that out? Like, I got to say this or I got to say that. Of course, they're going to say those things. But there's a difference here. I think he genuinely believes in what he's saying. When he talks about player responsibility and having the players be mentally prepared and understanding their role, when you went from Hackstall to Gordon, there were still people that I don't think they understood their role. I don't think the coach Gordon knew what he was doing with them. Hackstall, well, for damn sure did not know what he was doing with even Claude Giroux at most times. So, and then when he talked about the details to win, I thought that was great when he was talking about the offense and the defense, understanding their responsibilities, like the offense and the decisions with pucks, the defense and when to jump into play, and the special teams. Yeah, we're going to sit there and we're going to say he's just saying what the fans and the brass want to hear, but so is everybody who has an open presser. And at the end of the day, I definitely think this man lives and believes what he said in that presser today. And I think he's going to be amazing for the Flyers. And for the people who say, oh, well, he hasn't won a Stanley Cup. Well, fuck, we haven't won a Stanley Cup in, 40 years? So is it not a match made in heaven? A guy with an amazing resume wants to win a Stanley Cup, and one of the hungriest NHL fan bases to win a cup. He comes to us. I think it's just a match made in heaven. And like I said about Joel Quenneville, he just didn't want Philadelphia. We got to get over it. It's not that we didn't try. He just didn't want Philadelphia.
I think that we should just cut that little rant out and actually just delete the rest of this episode, because you might have actually just said enough to make people put that second foot right the hell back on the ledge and come back up and take a breath. You know, that's refreshing, because most people don't have that particular mindset. I certainly myself do not have that mindset. And would I kill to have it? Absolutely. I appreciate all those things that that you mentioned. And I think that for me, and I think for a lot of Flyers fans, the difficulty did not necessarily come in the body that is now known as Alain Vigneault to be behind the bench here. It was the fact that this process happened so quickly, and it seemed as though like they knew their guy and they weren't going to entertain any other options. They weren't going to sit there and see. And again, maybe rightfully so, the organization is saying, hey, let's not be the team to take the risk right now, with an AHL coach or another college coach, or a guy who hasn't yet really had the NHL coaching opportunity at the head coach spot. Maybe they didn't want to do that again right away after the Dave Hackstall experience. And they did want someone, as you mentioned, with someone who has such a solid resume as what Vigneault has. I think people have, one, you're 110% correct. Everyone's off-season checklist was Coach Q, and then everything else. It was Coach Q 1 through 9, and then number 10 through the rest was everything else. You're right. We offered him more money than what Florida did, but ultimately this just wasn't where he wanted or needed to be at this point in his career, his coaching career. As unfortunate as that is, you have to move on. And we moved on in a week from the idea of that. The Philadelphia Flyers moved on in a week from offering more money to the future Hall of Fame head coach in Quenneville, who goes to Florida. And 6 days later, whatever it is, we find a different guy. So it seems to me as we had these two potential options going into this off season, and they weren't necessarily going to entertain any additional thought there. So to me that says two things. One, the organization and Fletcher are incredibly, incredibly confident in what he could potentially bring to the players that we currently have and the players that they are believing that they could acquire over the next offseason, and the players that are going to come up from the system. That's a good thing. Two, they felt rushed, and they felt like they needed to get a resume, and they didn't want to be the franchise to take a risk. Both of those ideas are very, very different. Both of them upset me a little bit. I don't have the same amount of confidence that you do, but I feel like if I play the 4.5 minute rant that you just had as to why Flyers fans should put both their feet back on the ledge, take a breath, and then step the hell down, I think I could get to your level. I do.
Just
I'm
hit
just
repeat. Just
that's
hit
it.
repeat whenever you're sitting in front of a Flyers game and they're frustrating you, just come back to this and just hit repeat and just listen to it again, and you'll start to gain confidence. Because I mean, you talk about future Hall of Famer and Joel Quenneville. If Vigneault can get us a Stanley Cup, that's the only thing that this man has not been able to accomplish in this league. And if he's able to accomplish that, I have no doubt he ends up in the Hall of Fame with Quenneville eventually down the road. I mean, he's tied for 12th in NHL history for wins. So, I mean, tied for 12th in NHL history? How many coaches have there been in NHL history? And this guy's tied for 12th. The only thing he has not been able to accomplish is a Stanley Cup. Soon as he gets that, well, that win total, he's probably top 10 in NHL history for wins as a coach. So, I mean, replay this if it'll build your confidence up. But I think
we're going to make that the commercial.
We have to give the man a chance. Dude, look, what if we had went out and hired Dan Bilesma? Could you imagine? I see the Twitter. First of all, at the end of the day, no one was going to be happy with any decision made. They could have went out and hired the number one AHL coach, number one college coach, which, well, we all know that we'd flip our lids, we'd flip desks and tables if they went college again. But they could have hired the best college coach in all of college hockey history, and we'd still pick apart what we don't like about the guy. It's just in Flyers fans' blood to do that.
It certainly is. I think it rings true to what you said last week on Crossing Borders, the second episode that we had. If five guys, if it comes down to five guys, five candidates, you believe that it would have been a fairly even split amongst the fan bases, 20% for this guy, 20% for that, 20% across the board, and there was no way there was going to be 80% of the fan base that was going to be pissed off. I think you're right. And I don't necessarily know that this was particularly a candidate that was on very many people's radar in the fan base anyway. I know for my personal standpoint, he was not even part of the people I put in the poll that we used for ANYPodcast on our Twitter account, because the thought wasn't even there. So obviously the organization had done its due diligence entering into this to be able to make a decision that quickly. Real quick, before we roll into some of the 76er stuff, here are just a few of the fan responses that we have at least shared to our page. Finn O'Connor. Finn has followed us for quite some time. By the way, Finn, if you are listening to this, your profile picture is very bro-ish, and I feel like you should clean that shit up. But we love you nonetheless, dude. You said that he thinks that, or I think that he's done his part to impress the fans. He seems all in on this squad and taking this team in a different direction that is the same direction as most current playoff teams are in. I don't disagree with that very much.
That should build your confidence in him, that he's willing to take it in a different direction, because we've been stuck in boring old Hackstall's world for however many years it's been. I mean, I feel like I'm crawling out of hibernation, but I mean, we've been stuck in that boring, tedious form of hockey, if you can even call it that Hackstall put us to. If he's willing to take us in a different direction and say this stuff, if he's willing to teach a defense when to jump into a play properly, that's a million times better than what Hackstall was doing. So that alone should just build your confidence.
I think the thing for me that is the most refreshing in this presser was I immediately felt, and while he is certainly a quirky individual, I immediately felt as though there was actual personality that humans can connect to. One of the biggest things that we constantly hear in Philadelphia for almost all of our coaches at some point, with the exception of maybe Doug Peterson, was there was this lack of ability to connect with the person behind the bench or the person on the bench or in the dugout. It was almost like they were overly offensive to us because they are challenging what we very clearly can see. And they are saying things that are very clearly not true. And they're so, in Hackstall's case, was so stoic and just behind the bench and just just so tight-lipped and no emotion. It wasn't really until the end of Hackstall's tenure that we began to see even frustration from him, and that didn't necessarily resonate with a fan base that was overly passionate in everything that we do and everything that we support. 30 seconds into this guy's interview, he's cracking jokes, he's sarcastic, he smiles. This is strange to us.
Nice to see. It's refreshing because, you talk to people who, look at, let's go back to Ilya Bryzgalov. The media destroys people in Philadelphia. They just outright destroy people. So if Vigneault can get past the criticism and just say what he wants to say, and just at the end of the day, if whoever Howard Eskin, I know he doesn't really cover hockey, but say he says, oh, this guy's an idiot or whatever, and he just brushes it off and goes out and coaches his next game, I think that's great that they have the personality and they're able to interact with the media and they're able to just brush off what some of these idiots say, because genuinely some of these guys in their comments are really stupid. It just makes no sense to me why you'd say that. But when you speak of quirky, by the way, if anyone has not seen his interaction with Gritty, I shared it I retweeted it. Absolutely hilarious. I thought it was great the way he interacted with the media, and then the way he interacted with Gritty. It was great. It's great. I love that first day for him.
Yeah, again, it was, very not unlike Bryce Harper. It was a check the boxes day for him. It wasn't going to do or say anything that was going to throw current coaches or systems under the bus. It wasn't going to say anything that would have upset any players. He was comfortable in his delivery and the words that he expressed. But I don't want to say it was fluff, because it certainly wasn't fluff. But it was very, very routine. And you mentioned it, earlier on. Isaiah from ANYPodcast, which, by the way, if you do not listen to the ANYPodcast, please go ahead and do so. Isaiah and Chef B to the left and Dan, the Fly Era fan, they're all great. It's a really, really quality Flyers pod. He said basically what I feel like a lot of Philadelphia Flyers fans are at. He expressed that he was really indifferent, trying to feel a different way about it, but thinking that that he's more than competent to do the job. He's definitely an NHL coach. That was, one way. We had Chris Schneider, who, I swear, I think Chris, by the way, Chris has an NFL show. It's Spot's House on YouTube. Definitely check that out. He's a funny dude and he's really, really smart. But we definitely dig at each other on Twitter for some different takes and opinions. And his response was just a gif of a cartoon character with a hose shooting himself in the head, which is, I think, the other half of Philadelphia Flyers fans. So, like I said, there was a multitude of different directions and thoughts amongst this particular take, and it's something we'll certainly for Always Next Year podcast dive into on our next two shows tomorrow with Who the Puck is Ryan Dingle, and then theoretically if Steve and Whiskey Hour with Steve or Happy Hour Steve, whatever the hell he's calling it. We'll get some more talk.
You're really butchering his opportunity to bring this show to life. I think.
Here's the thing. It's a pilot episode that we've literally started discussing over drinks the other night. So I'm pretty sure that neither one of us really know what the hell it's going to be called at this point. But we'll certainly see. But before we run out of time, so we have a little bit of time to sit here to talk about our last take, and then we do have one that certainly deserves a little bit of some smashing at the end, thanks and courtesy to Joe Giglio and his ridiculousness. But before we get to Giglio's take, our 76ers take, 76ers who are currently on right now in their third game here for their first round of the playoffs. This is in reference to the really, really bad loss that occurred in game one. And the big takeaways were obviously Simmons' comments post game. If you're booing, if you're a fan and you're booing us, stay on that side. Obviously, that's an emotional response that does not necessarily reflect his feelings towards the fan base as a whole. Just an emotional response to the moment. The other side of that is Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler came to the podium and said all of the right things because he is a consummate pro. He is the guy who is, at this point, the quote-unquote adult of the team. What does that say in terms of Butler's off-season worth to a team like the Philadelphia 76ers? I've been on record all week and for the last 2 weeks in saying, I feel very strongly that Jimmy Butler actually at this stage of his career needs the Philadelphia 76ers more than the 76ers need him. After his comments and his roles to this point in the playoffs, I feel like it's probably a split, and it's probably something to echo you earlier over different topics. This might be the perfect marriage. What is your state on the Jimmy Butler off season and what it may look like for the Philadelphia 76ers?
Well, I guess I'm going to start with the take on the Ben Simmons and the attitude, and then I'll get into Jimmy Butler there, because I just shared with you the Shannon Sharp take about the Sixers will never ever win because Embiid and Simmons have the wrong attitude and too many weaknesses. So clearly this is a topic that isn't going to go away. It's clearly become front and center in even national media attention. Was what are Embiid and Simmons a little immature? Yes, but they're younger than me. I'm a 26-year-old man, and they're younger than me. Like these guys they're just out of their teens, and we're sitting there and expecting them. People are expecting them just because they're our number one picks and they're supposed to be our leaders or the face of the Sixers franchise, that they should be like 60-year-old wise men at the age of 22, 23, 24. I think we kind of have to let up on that a little bit. Was the comments made by Simmons good to say? No, maybe the media in your face right after a game, not the greatest way to just burst out, but it makes Crossing Borders a far more exciting show when they do that. So, but ultimately for Jimmy Butler, I think especially, we're only 2 games into the playoffs. So I don't want to go crazy, kind of just like the Aaron Nola thing where people are pushing the panic button. I think that based off of the 2 games with Jimmy Butler and his attitude, what he did for the team when the team was down and out in game 1, the way he stepped up versus everybody else, I think that it's becoming quite obvious that we need to re-sign him. We need to find a way to bring him back. I understand he's 30 years old, going on 31, and he's going to demand a max contract and all this. But at the end of the day, he is the adult, and he will be the adult for probably 2 or 3 years. We do have to remember Joel Embiid, when he first came into the league, was asking Rihanna for a date on Instagram or Twitter. Or
which, more proud to you, man, that she's a total babe.
Which is okay. But you wouldn't think that of the leader or the face of a franchise. You don't see Jimmy Butler going out asking for dates with people. I think we have to bear that in mind. We have to keep that in mind with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. I think Shannon Sharp takes extremely harsh. I think to say we're not going to win anything, we got 10 plus years of, hopefully, fingers crossed, of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, if Joel Embiid's still walking in 10 years. Hopefully we got 10 years of them. And are we going to win a championship? Oh, definitely. I would put my money on that, and I would argue with Shannon Sharp any day on that take, because I think that they will win something and they will mature. They're just young right now. And it was just that impulsive take from Simmons that it got me upset. I'll admit it. It got me upset too. And then when Jimmy Butler said what he said, it's like, oh, thanks. It's like when dad says something really stupid and you go to mom and you're like, dad, and mom says something to calm you down, just like that situation. It's like, oh, thanks, Jimmy. I needed that after what that retard said over there.
Oh my God. So that's basically how I felt about it, right? I sat there, and the immediate response to the Ben Simmons thing, was, I think my tweet was just like, yikes. That was about the worst thing you could say in that moment. And you do come back down to earth really, really quickly when 12 minutes later, Jimmy Butler takes the podium, and he's able to sit there and say, he understood the fan base. He understood, that they should be held to a higher standard and that he himself wanted to play better. I think one thing that stuck out very much so to me was, him saying that, one thing that really bothered him about his game and that game was the fact that he had 0 assists. Yes, he had 36 points, and 7 or 8 boards. He did have 2 steals and 2 blocks, but he didn't find a way to get his teammates involved. It was very much so that F you, Jimmy, I'm just going to shoot and score. And he did. But there were four other guys on the floor who very well may have suffered in different moments of that game. And he recognized that. And he had that different mindset and mentality coming out the next night. He only scored 7 points, but he had 7 assists, and that he had 7 assists by being a part-time point guard. So that's a pretty good number. So what he's doing and saying in those post games and in these couple games is incredibly impressive. And it does put to rest a little bit some of the frustrations in the youth and immaturity of a Ben Simmons, which, by the way, game 2, Ben Simmons, super assertive, really efficient, very, very much so. I want to win the fan base back over. I totally bought in. I believed it. I loved it. And he came out tonight with the very same mentality. To me, when you fuck up in this town and when you say the wrong thing, there is literally only 2 things that can happen. That is the beginning of the end of you in this city, and you will find your way out. There was the very real possibility that after that comment, Ben Simmons ends up in an LA, and he's just on the other coast and we never fucking hear from him again. That's the magnitude of stupidity that brings. Or put your big boy pants on, face what you said and did in a very emotional moment, come back out here and play your assertive game and respond to the fans, respond to the media, and be a pro.
Agreed.
And he did it.
Use your game. Use your game to speak for it. I mean, even tonight, I'm just checking the stats quick, and he's 9 for 10, 22 points, 7 rebounds, or 7 assists and 4 rebounds. Like he's responding. That's what we wanted to see. You don't have to respond with your words. We get it. It can be frustrating. And the best thing to do with Philadelphia media, and people learn it the hard way, is just to not make a comment or just use the fewest words possible.
Yeah, it's
and
like you're in the courtroom.
Ben Simmons just used the wrong few words.
Yeah, again, and you mentioned it, and I've said it. It's an emotional game, it's a playoff game, and it's a very tough city, and you were embarrassed on your home floor, and you're the star, and things didn't go right, and you heard that. You heard that personally, and you heard that as a team. You went into the locker room, and the mood wasn't right. The media is attacking you. You're getting put into this corner, and the room is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and yes, you say the wrong thing. Fewest words, just like you mentioned, probably for the best. But in that moment, I'm not exactly pissed off that he said it anymore because he was honest. And if he didn't come out and speak honestly in the way that he did and didn't get held accountable and hear all the shit on social media that he undoubtedly heard, I don't think you get game 2 and 3 Ben Simmons as you're getting right now. You're getting a different and still passive Ben Simmons. You're not getting the assertive, confident Ben Simmons. His game has changed, and his game has changed because he was a moron after game 1. And now we should all be thankful that he was an idiot for 1 minute. And then on to the Jimmy Butler thing. I think when you do look at things like this, and it's where I do believe that the line has come back down in line in terms of, Jimmy needs the Sixers more than what the Sixers need him, and where they're kind of lining back up for that perfect marriage again, is I do believe that at a certain point, Ben Simmons sees that interview from Jimmy Butler. I'm sure Jimmy Butler talked to Ben Simmons. I'm sure that in that locker room there, they turned to a Jimmy who has been there and who can help guide them through what it is like to be a pro in this type of environment and situation. Because Jimmy is the NBA's villain. Scott, a guy we had on the show as a guest on TJ's One of Us last week, he mentioned it. The NBA loves to hate Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler loves to be the NBA's villain. When those doors close, it is damn good to have Jimmy Butler on your side. And as a young player who can sit there and now connect with a player who mistakenly, in a moment of emotion, says the wrong thing and becomes the villain to his city, Jimmy Butler can go over and says, this is how you win them back. And Ben's responding. And it's for reasons such as that Jimmy Butler needs to be here next year.
Agreed. People argue for we need Harris more. We should get Harris. He should be top priority. I still think Jimmy Butler should be and always will be as far as that goes. Do we need Harris? I think we need to get them both. But Jimmy Butler is important to the growth of the young guys, and there's a lot of young guys on this team. And I think he's very important to that growth of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Ben Simmons more importantly, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And again, the 76ers, and we're going to wrap this segment up very shortly so we can catch the end of that game. The 76ers need Jimmy Butler in a way that I didn't think a couple weeks ago they did. But before we do end this segment, you had sent this one to me, and we both agreed that there was no way that we could not include this dumbassery at the tail end of this week's episode of Crossing Borders. Joe Giglio of WIP. And again, we believe that this is specifically for Rise Out of People and for his part on Art of the Take Pod that he shares with Spike Eskin and Jack Fritz. Joe Giglio tweets out, and this is after the Columbus Blue Jackets sweep the President Cup winner, Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay sweeping the Lightning isn't a good thing for hockey. It just shows you why no one should watch or care about the entire NHL regular season. 6-month waste of time. I was so bitterly angry at the stupidity of this tweet, that I found there to be no way that we could not talk about it, even just for 5 minutes. So take 60 seconds and tell me why this is the most dumbass thing that you could have possibly read on Twitter all day.
It's crazy. When I saw it, I was just like, I know that we can't respectfully talk about this with respect to him, because it's crazy. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in sports. Because how are you going to sit there? How do you declare who makes the playoffs? Are you just going to pick teams out of a hat, pick the 16 teams out of a hat, and the other 14 you say, oh, come back next year, maybe you guys will get your chance? Like, it's crazy that he even said this. The regular season is equally as important, and it makes sports even more exciting, I find, because you see these teams pushing for that final playoff spot. The last 2 weeks are huge in every sport. It's the same thing. There's always, is there like half the teams already eliminated? Yeah, but there's still those 3 teams fighting, jockeying for position. Everyone wanted that 3 seed for the Sixers instead of the 4 seed and having to face the Celtics. Like, we all are having to face the Pacers, but we all, like, you need that regular season. You just need it. It's a crazy thing to even say. Like, how is he going to say, how does he want the playoffs to be? That's what I'd like to hear. He can go on Art of the Take and explain, how do you want the playoffs to work? Should we draw out of a hat? Should we just kind of, I can't even think of any other ideas.
No one can.
That's where my mind's at.
I gotta be honest. I feel like this jackass has never watched hockey. Personally, like just looking at him, listening to him on WIP, following his Twitter and stuff like that, very well may be the first hockey thing I've ever seen or heard him say or speak on, like, ever. And he chooses to come out here and make a comment about an 8 beating a 1, which, by the way, another 8 is on the verge of beating another 1. This is what happens in sports. Everyone needs. You want to tell me that the entire world didn't know last year about Virginia losing in the NCAA tournament? It never happens. It never happened until that point. There was always that sliver of hope, and it's why people watch an otherwise meaningless game or series, because they want the impossible, because the impossible sells. The impossible stories that run along, that is sexy. That is an awesome product. You take a look at Virginia losing last year, and then it made every Virginia game this year in the tournament look like a must-see TV, because holy shit, are they going to blow it again? Are they going to blow it again? Are they going to blow it again? Next year, when Tampa undoubtedly is back in the playoffs as a 1, 2, or 3 seed, a freaking again, they are now must-see TV for a totally different reason, because whomever they are playing, they're immediately sitting there as the next walk-up candidate for Cinderella story, and everyone fucking loves the Cinderella story. Everyone wants Braddock. Everyone wants that.
Absolutely. That's what sells. That's just what sells. Like, even like I was cheering for Tampa to lose. I hate Columbus too, so
I hate both teams.
I hate Columbus, and I hate what they did. They mortgaged their entire future away, and if they win the cup this year, they're probably not winning one for 10 more years. So by all means,
the Flyers basically did that.
If that's how you want to do it, that's how you want to do it. But to see them lose and to see Pittsburgh lose and stuff, I love it. Those are the things that I love to see. Just like everyone, and I know this will resonate well with Eagles fans, everybody is so tired of the Patriots in the Super Bowl. We want to see something out of that AFC. You come to the NFC and it's a war zone to get into that play to get to the playoffs, and then just to get to the Super Bowl, you put it all on the line for 3 weeks, and then you sit there and you're like, holy shit, now I gotta go play the Patriots. So like, I mean, I even I was talking to my buddy who's a Raiders fan, and he's like, I'm just so done with the Patriots. I get it's an amazing dynasty, and we're never gonna see it again, but it's just like you want to see different things in sports. You want change. And change,
And
those Cinderella
things.
stories, those comeback stories, that's what sells.
Nick Foles beats Tom Brady. Doug Peterson beats Bill Belichick. That is a far sexier story that people will forever remember than freaking Tom Brady gets his 900th championship and Belichick gets his fucking 1,000th. Who gives a shit?
It's a million times sexier than this past Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
It's no storyline that you can make Sam sexy out of that.
Nope, nothing at all. That is basically going to conclude everything here for Crossing Borders with Always Next Year podcast. You can always be sure to rate and review our podcast. Go to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you listen to podcasts. We should be on there. Also, be sure to go to our website, www.alwaysnextyearpodcast.com. You can follow Connor at his personal Twitter account. Connor, go ahead.
At Connor10 on Twitter.
He's basically a must follow, and if you enjoy all of the topics that we've used, I'm pretty sure he has found 7 of the 8 of them. And then you can also find me on Twitter at my personal. It is at Shane_Mead, and you can follow the podcast at ANYPodcast. Until next week, when we bring you back with 4 more topics for the Philadelphia Angry fans, we are Always Next Year podcast here for Crossing Borders. For Connor, I am Shane. Good night, and we'll see you next week.
Good night.